Community Hall. My name is Violet. I am the chair of Critical Action. I want to extend special thanks to Bishop, also our community partners for this event to fruition. We're recognizing Katie Wilson, who is the president of the NAACP. She wasn't able to be with us this evening, but I'm sure that she'll be watching in our virtual world. And also, we give special thanks to the members that served on the political planning committee, and also to Reverend Marble for diligently working with us to support this event. I want to give a shout out to those that's in the virtual community because this is being streamed. And we thank you all for coming out. As uncomfortable sometimes it is, as it may be, we are asking you to wear your mask, and we do appreciate that. So at this time, we would have Bishop Johnson to come forward with prayer, and then the next voice would be that of the facilitator, who would be Reverend Marable.
I want to say welcome to everyone, and thank you so much for coming out tonight. Hopefully, our team and our staff has made you feel welcome. And thank you to all of the candidates that have come out tonight. And hopefully, this will be great dialogue and conversation on tonight. Thank you to the NAACP for putting on this event and allowing this platform for these candidates to share their thoughts and their ideas. Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this privilege, Lord, that we have to come, Lord, and to make this community we all love better. We pray, God, that you would guide the conversation tonight. We are in every leader, grace, wisdom to lead all opportunity. Now you'll be in the hands of
Let me say once again, welcome to the Zion Christian Ministry Church. A special shout out to our brother, Pastor Chris Johnson, Bishop Chris Johnson, and all of those that have made this night possible. Thank you for those that are in our audience and those that are watching us via social media. Tonight, I truly believe you will hear information. At the end of the night, I pray that we'll have some inspiration, that we'll leave here uplifted, that these officials, these candidates, we're in good hands in going forward. Tonight is about harmony. Tonight, we're not going to throw stones at each other. We need each other. We all need each other to make this a better place, a better city, better county. And so I'm grateful and I'm honored to have every candidate that is here represented here tonight. Let me just share this with you. I'm going to ask a series of questions to the city council and the school board candidates. They will have 2 minutes each to answer the question. Technology is so amazing. We have a big old watch or clock right there in front of us, so we can see that. And so they are well aware of the 2 minutes. After I get through doing what I'm doing, each candidate will have 1 minute to introduce themselves, and then I'll come back with predetermined questions. We did feel that it was safe that we would go the predetermined route so we can have a better preparation for tonight. I just want everybody to sit back, relax, enjoy yourself. I'm grateful once again to have these candidates with me. So tonight, I'm going to ask that we will start to my left and work our way around the table. A young man that have probably taken all of our pictures in here at some point, Mr. Shacklet, and then it's going to be Mr. Wade, Mr. Wright, Mr. Dowdy. Is that correct? Mr. Dowdy, Mr. Young, Mr. Jones, Kreisky, Miss Moore, Mr. Hodge, and Miss Maxwell in that order. Introductions.
Thank you, Kerry, and thank you, NAACP, for doing this. It's not my first time to participate in a forum by the NAACP. Appreciate all that you do for our community and bringing us together. Just to tell you a little bit about me, if you don't know me, I was raised in this community, went to Murfreesboro City Schools, Rutherford County Schools, went to MTSU, got a degree in urban planning back in '73. Was also commissioned through ROTC program, served in the Army Reserve. Came back to a family business that's over 80 years old in our community. I took over that business in 2002. Consider passed away. I was asked to consider putting my name up. They were going to appoint a replacement for John, and so I put my name in, but they decided to wait for the next election to that spot. So I ran in 2002, elected, and served a term then. Still had young girls in the House, and so after that first term, ran for another office, lost 2 races, mayor and a state level race, and decided, well, politics might, my time better be spent with my children during that time. So anyway, that's what we did, and back trying to serve again.
Thank you, Kerry. Thank you, NAACP. My name is Kurt Wade. I've been on the council now for 4 years. Moved here from Jacksonville, Florida. My family and I, we didn't know anybody in this city. We felt that Murfreesboro was a great place to live and raise your kids. That's why we moved to Murfreesboro, and that's why I got involved in politics. My dad served on the city council in West Tennessee for 20 years. So I've got a little history and a little background about serving, know how to serve. And one thing I can say in the last 4 years since I've been on the council, done some great things. Murfreesboro is one of the top-ranked cities, and the reason being is we made some hard decisions, and we're continuing to do what's best for Murfreesboro.
Thank you, Mr. Marable, and the NAACP for putting this event together. My name's Sean Wright. I'm born and raised in Murfreesboro as well. I went to the Murfreesboro City Schools and Rutherford County Schools coming up. I got a degree from MTSU in Bachelor's of Business Administration and Economics and Finance. I went on to get my MBA, finished top of my class at the University of Memphis in finance, then went on to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville to get trained in lean process and Six Sigma Black Belt training. Go through a process, break it down, save money, and make a flow chart flow easier. Get rid of bottlenecks. I want to serve on the Murfreesboro City Council because we live in a great city, and I feel my attributes can make the city even better.
Mr. Marable, NAACP, I want to thank you for inviting me. Thank you for putting on this event. My name is Patrick Dowdy. I've been in Rutherford County for 10 years. I'm currently a sheriff's office deputy. I work for in the schools as a school resource officer. I have 3 kids who are currently in the school system. My wife, Kimberly. I work in and out of the school system. I'm in and out of the schools. I deal with the students and teachers and so forth on a daily basis. Just been some things that I've gained a little more interest in, and the school system is one of them. I never really paid attention to the school board and what they did until about 4 years ago. I have extreme interest in what happens within the schools and to the teachers and the curriculum and so forth. So I decided to run for Zone 2.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Marable for hosting this town hall meeting tonight. My name's Coy Young. I currently serve on Rutherford County School Board for Zone 2. My family has resided and attended schools in Rutherford County for over 100 years. My wife of 36 years, Jennifer, and I have 2 children, Jonathan and Sarah Beth, Jonathan and his wife, Rachel, son Elam. We have a first grandson. We'll be the 5th generation to attend Rutherford County schools. Sarah Beth is a science teacher at Oakland High School. Rachel's a nursing educator at MTSU. Jonathan owns his own business, Traditions Construction. My wife and I own Las Casas Feed Supply, a small local business in our home, Las Casas. buying goods and services to local farmers and families throughout Middle Tennessee. I'm not attending school board events, TSBA districts, and state meetings, and National School Board Association yearly meetings. My wife and I are active in our community. We have a member of Las Casas Baptist Church for 20 years. I've served as an administrative committee and treasurer, chairman, fellowship committee. We are also members of the Las Casas Milton Lions Club. I've served as vice president of the Oakland End Zone Club. Honored to be here and looking forward to discuss for.
Hello, I'm Howard Jones. I'm a candidate for School Zone 3. I grew up in this blessed county, and I've enjoyed going through our school system and learning. During that time, I learned there's more to school than just textbooks and tests. You learn life skills in schools that you can take with you. So that's what got me interested in running for schools. I want to be the one that brings us together and takes us even further. My background is in business. I've been a superintendent for the last 20 years. I've been a leader for 30 years. So with the family I have, my parents worked in the schools. My brother worked in a teacher and a coach. My daughter teaches. My son-in-law teaches. My niece, who is here tonight, teaches. And that brings a unique perspective. I can bring the things that we need together and hopefully make us a better community for it. I want to say one special thing to my wife for 34 years. Thank you for putting up with me and allowing me to do these things. We now have a wonderful granddaughter named Ella Kate, who is just incredible, and that drives me even further to want to make our schools better. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rick Kreisky, and I would first like to also thank Zion Christian Ministry Church and the NAACP for sponsoring this. This is a great opportunity for all of us to get together and talk and put our thoughts out. I'm a lifelong educator. I'm a 38-year retired twice educator. I've been a director of schools in West Tennessee, retired there, and then went to North Carolina, and I was a superintendent for 9 years. Prior to that, my educational professional career included being an English teacher, a reading teacher in middle school, high school principal. One time I was even a custodian and drove a bus. So I've done the full spectrum of most things in public schools. We relocated to Murfreesboro in Rutherford County 2 years ago. And we're here because of our grandchildren and our sons, and 2 of our grandchildren are already in Rutherford County schools, and the other 2 will be there soon. I want to use my experience to help and contribute to the school board and to the district.
Evening, and I'm Lisa Moore, and I want to thank Bishop Johnson, Reverend Malone, and the NAACP. There were a lot of people that tried to put together a program like this, and you guys pulled it off, so thank you. I am currently on the school board representing Zone 3. I'm finishing up my 6th year on the board. I started out my journey back a number of years ago on the platform of fighting back against Common Core and some of the things that I saw going on in the school system when our youngest son was actually in middle school. Husband Scott and I have been married for 34 years. People ask me all the time, are you a Murfreesboro native? And I say no, but I have been here for over 40 years, and I certainly feel like I am. Scott and I, throughout our corporate careers, had many opportunities to advance with our companies and move away from Rutherford County. We chose not to, and we turned down those opportunities because we feel so strongly about this community. Both of our sons were raised through the public schools, whether it was city schools or county schools. Our oldest son, Jeremy, graduated from Riverdale, and our youngest son, Jacob, graduated from Central Magnet last year. But I'm very passionate about what I do. I wanted to bring a parent's voice, but I also wanted to bring my corporate background, which is over 30 years of high-level human resources and risk management, and I feel like I've brought a wealth of information and knowledge to the board, and I want to continue to do that for another 4 years. Thank you.
My name's Terry Hodge, and I'm candidate for the Rutherford County School Board Zone 5. I'd like to echo what everyone else has said tonight, that I do appreciate the NAACP and Ministries for hosting this, giving us this opportunity to come together and support Rutherford County, sharing our ideas and vision for Rutherford County. Grew up here in Murfreesboro, attended Murfreesboro City Schools, Rutherford County Schools, and graduated from MTSU in 1979 with BS in Industrial Studies. Got my wife and I, we've got 2 kids. Both of those graduated from the schools, Rutherford County Schools, and right now I've got 1 granddaughter and going to be in the 3rd grade, and got 2 that'll be coming along in 2 years. So basically I'll have 3 into the school system. I've owned and operated businesses here in Murfreesboro since 1982. I've served on the school board for the last 16 years. Through those years, I can say we've seen, or I've seen, or whoever, we've seen a lot of growth, and I've seen a lot change in the educational process and the programs available for our children. I will say that from a school system standpoint, I'd like to say thanks to our director and the staff and all the teachers, administrators, and the support offered by our parents who entrust us with the children every day. I will also say we face a huge challenge this coming August, trying to get things back to somewhat normal. I'm ready to continue the work we've started and rely on 16 years of experience to meet the demands of public education in a time of pandemic.
Hi, my name is Claire Maxwell, and I was born and raised in Rutherford County. I'm a product of the Rutherford County school system, having graduated from Riverdale in 1986. I obtained my degree in history 4 years later from the University of Tennessee, where I met my husband, Austin Maxwell. We raised 4 sons in the Rutherford County school system. They graduated in 2011, 2013, and twins in 2016. I'm waiting on that grandbaby girl. I have been involved with the school system as a parent and in PTO at Central Middle School and Riverdale, as well as football and track booster club at Riverdale. I took a job in 2015 as an educational assistant working in special ed CDC at Riverdale. And I appreciate the opportunity tonight to allow me to share my vision for our school system, a school system that should not neglect any school or any student. I'm determined to make each student's educational experience the very best it can be. If elected, I will bring my passion for fairness and equality to the Rutherford County School Board.
Come on, let's give all of our candidates a hand for being here with us tonight. Thank you. Will, if you all can let me borrow about 10 seconds. I feel something that we need to do tonight. This came to me earlier today. Can we pause for a moment of silence as we remember Dr. Linda Gilbert? I feel that's a need, that we continue to remember her life, her labor, her legacy that she's given to our city and to our county. So would you do that with me as we pause and remember the life of Dr. Linda Gilbert? Thank you. I'm going to ask 2 questions. Our segment 1 will be 2 questions for the City Council first, and then we will follow by the 2 questions for our school board candidates. City Council candidates, we will ask that you would answer in this order: Mr. Shacklett, Mr. Wade, then Mr. Wright. Question number 1. There have been national concerns about reallocation of funds from the police department. Please state your stance on the possibility of moving funds from the police department.
Well, yeah, there we go.
that I guess I received over 100 emails when this came up. Lots of people were cutting and pasting and sending their comments, but I tried to address every one that had contacted me about this. And we haven't been through a circumstance like we've been the last 3 or 4 months. Trying to make an evaluation as to what is the best course forward, it's going to require a lot of dialogue, a lot of talk, and that's begun, that understanding of each other and actually listening to each other's concerns. Point made is in that email, when we talk about defunding the police department, if from my ears, hearing that is like, get rid of your police department? Is that what you're talking about? And we're going to be a safer community if we just don't have a police department? Well, that wasn't exactly what I think the majority of people that were talking about reallocation of funds. And Kerry, I appreciated you phrasing that way. We all need to realize that the conversation begins when we are communicating, and there's 2 things that happen when communication happens. One person speaks, and the other person listens. We have to respect each other and talk in respectful dialogue for us actually to be able to hear each other. To me, that's where this whole issue and this conversation needs to begin, is a serious discussion as to what are we talking about. I certainly respect those police officers that every day go out. It's probably one of the hardest jobs we can have. That and teachers, quite honestly, is a difficult job, and we expect perfection. Always do the right thing. Always treat people with respect and do the right thing, and when you don't, you're subject to criticism. So I think we have to talk about how that happens and how we can do better. Every time we've had tragedy occurs, we've claimed some ground, and I hope we can do that as we further discuss this issue.
Bill got 100 emails. I got 101 emails. So I think what I got out of most of the emails, just like Bill said, defunding. Nobody really wants to get rid of the police department. I think what I talked to Chief about is, what can we do better and make our police force better? Can we go back and look how we train our police department? Can we just go back and look at some of the tactics that we use? Because that's really what's going to make our police department better. And once we do that, and we can look at that, but we hadn't even had a chance as a council really to sit down and talk about this. But what we have done, each and every council person have reached out to the chief to say, hey, we need to see what we can do better to make our police a better force.
I've just received a few emails because I'm the only non-incumbent. So, but I've received emails all the way from let's move some money around all the way to people asking to get rid of the Murfreesboro City Police Department. And I just want to add on to what Mr. Wade and Mr. Shacklett said. The first step to this is communication. Let's sit down and really figure out where everybody wants to be, and listen and truly listen and figure out where we need to go. Maybe we need to put body cameras on every police officer. That does 2 things. One, it finds the bad police officers that we can get rid of if they need to go. But 2, it protects our good police officers that if they're doing something in the line of duty they're supposed to be doing and they have an accusation against them, they're protected. Our crime rate in 2019 was 9.8% higher than 2018. And in 2020, we're moving even further past that. So when we talk about defunding the police department, we need to look at how that looks holistically. We can't hurt the city as far as safety and security in a negative path. We just need to sit down and communicate.
Thank you. Our next question for the City Council. As you are aware, City Council members are elected at large. In our city district, a large section of our areas isn't represented. What are your thoughts or plans to bring equal representation across our city?
You want me to start?
Let's start with Mr. Wade, Mr. Wright, and then we'll end with Mr. Shacklett.
So your question is, you want to looking at districts? Is that what you wanted? Well, that's been discussion for a number of years. Do we need districts? If you look at some of the bigger cities you can look at Nashville, You look at Memphis, just Chattanooga, they have districts. Only thing about districts, you just people get caught up in their district. They're not looking at what's best for Murfreesboro. Not to say we can't go to districts yet, but what I'm looking at right now is you've got a council that says we're looking at what's best for the entire city of Murfreesboro. There's not been one element, part of this city that's been left out. We just redid Manny Avenue 2 years ago. There's always something been done in every part of the city. So I think we can't just jump on the boat and say we need districts because a couple people think we need districts. Because you got to be careful. When people start getting in their own little pocket, I want to do what's best for my district, but not what's best for the city of Murfreesboro.
Thank you for the question. I'm actually for a hybrid system. Just like Mr. Wade said, there's pros and cons to the at-large system and the district system. But when you blend the two and put a hybrid system together, have 4 districts, 2 at-larges, that way a person that lives in Murfreesboro, if they have an issue, they still have 3 council members they can call plus the mayor, so 4 people. We're at 7 now. But if you feel that districts would be better representative of you, now you have 4 districts, and that way you get the best of both worlds because there are pros and cons to both systems.
Thank you. And now to our school board candidates. Oh, my fault, man. Go on. Go ahead, man.
That's okay. Carrie, I was just about to say, I hope I can do this in 2 minutes. Do I get the extra time? This is a serious, every time I've run, this is a question that comes before the candidates, districts. And I've done a lot of research on this. And I'm not saying I'm full circle on it. I'm still processing that information, and I think that's a good thing. Because I was talking to Alan Farley, I went over and said, Alan, what would it take? Because a few months ago, I was contacted by a group of people. I don't know if there's anybody here and that was a part of that were trying to get an initiative moving to have a petition drive going to be presented at this election, in the August election, and then to get it on the ballot for November. And I thought, man, that's a great idea because we'll probably have a significant number of people participate. You know, city elections, the sad part about it is we have a very small percentage of people participating in it. A fundamental change in the structure of your government needs a huge number of people expressing their opinion about this. We're going to move if we're going to change our charter because fundamentally, you think, well, it's better representation. Not necessarily. That representative will represent me. Talking to somebody just a few minutes ago, sometimes in the same house. It's not a matter of location, it's quality of representation, because somebody in the same house may not think like you do. But the point is, are we getting quality people that are people of character that will do the right thing and represent us as people? Districts can be a help because it makes that position a little bit more accessible to people within that district. At large, if somebody is open and doing a good job and asking questions and fundamentally representing the people, then at large can be a little better, because then if your district representative doesn't express your opinion, you can call any of the 6 or 7 of us, talk to them, and find somebody. Like the other day, I read the Riot Act about something, and he said, you're the only one that answered the phone that day. Well, I know it was just that day I happened to answer. But there's a lot more to dissect this frog about district representation. The conversation needs to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Shacklett. And now to the school board candidates. Question number 1. This year, meaning last school year, we have witnessed some unprecedented times emotionally, socially, financially, and of course, educationally. The idea of testing deflates educators and students' morale at times. Do you feel that this next academic year testing should be set aside? Now, I do realize you all don't make that final decision, but we just want some of your input concerning testing. We will start with Mr. Coy Young and work our way around the table.
Thank you for the question. Testing that It's a difficult task to test, and we have had issues here lately where they change the test. Changes every year. And we have different education commissioners at the state level. We really need to set aside testing for a while. Overtest anyway. We need to set that testing aside, let things calm down, get back to some kind of normal. Then we can go back and start testing our students and seeing areas we need to improve in. Most of your teachers are going to know just by working with that class what areas these kids need help, and they don't need a whole lot of help from the state where to improve.
Thank you. I agree with Mr. Young. There's an old phrase I like to use, let teachers teach. I think that's what we need this year, especially after the things that the students, the teachers, faculty, our citizens have went through. Let's let our teachers teach, set the testing aside, and allow them the latitude to improve our students and get them caught up from the time they missed last year. I think if we'll support our teachers and with the parents and the school board, that we can really move forward this year and hopefully catch up from what we missed at the end of last year. Thank you.
Overtesting has been part of our public schools since about 2000. When No Child Left Behind came in 2002, we began overtesting, and it was federally mandated. We need to address next year. We also need to address the overtesting that takes place every year. We can test our students in the 3rd grade, the 8th grade, and either the 11th or 12th grade, and we can find out how good the education is that they're getting, what our teachers are doing, what our administrators are doing, and what our students are learning. Now, for next year, I do agree that we need to talk to the state and see if they can talk to the feds about holding off on the testing, because this will not be, as someone already said, this will not be a local decision that will be made here. It's going to be made above local school district. So it needs to be done through our state education commission, and then it needs to go to the feds. That's what we need to hold out for. Our students, there's an old saying in educational administration, it doesn't make the pig fatter the more you weigh the pig. And our students don't get smarter by us testing them. We need to let our teachers teach. We need to let them be creative and find ways to try to close those gaps on the student learning that has been lost over this 5-6 month period or more that the students have been away.
Appreciate the question because it is a very strong subject with how I feel about this. The state has been over-testing our students, as Mr. Kreisky pointed out, for years, many, many years. And we are stressing out our teachers, stressing out our students. And when you take over-testing and what we're doing as children into our teachers, combine it with the fact that the state's Department of Education testing has been fraught with disaster. It's been one disaster after another. It's embarrassing. And that would be something too. And again, it's like everyone has pointed out, you don't get to make that decision at a local level. We most certainly do have a voice. And that's what we're here for as zone representatives for our school system. By the way, it doesn't matter to me whether it's my zone or not. If a parent calls me or a teacher needs something or a child needs something, they're all a part of the Rutherford County school system. My opinion on testing for this next year is absolutely it needs to be brought to a halt. We need to let these teachers and these kids get back some sense of normalcy if we are able to return to school. That certainly is not going to help matters, especially not if we don't have 10 ready and ready. It hasn't been ready for the past 5 years. One of the things that I feel like I have brought to the table is the fact that for the first 4 years of my tenure, I've represented the board as the state legislative rep. I've developed an excellent relationship with our state legislators, and it is them that we're going to have to speak to their hearts to help them understand that some slack.
I pretty well agree with what everyone said. I also believe that the situation we're dealing with right now for this year, the testing should be set aside. I've been on the board, I guess, started out with Race to the Top, and then 2010, somewhere around there, went to Common Core, and then that was eliminated 2016, 17, somewhere in there, and now we're at NC standards. So I think everything's just moving so fast, and we're all worried about it. I don't know, it's not us. Well, I guess it is. It's us that have to worry about taking care of, doing the testing with everything else. But I just think things need to slow down a little bit, and especially what we're dealing with, trying to get back to school. I don't see any way in the world you can hold it accountable or hold the school system. So I'm just in hopes that the state will waive it.
I'm going to concur with everyone up here. I was concerned with testing for the last couple of years too. I really feel like we've over-tested, and I definitely would put aside testing for this year, possibly going into next year. I know in my special ed students, they haven't taken to the virtual learning at all. And so I would like to have a chance for the teachers to get the students back, see where they are, because you're going to have multiple levels. Some kids are going to be okay. Some kids are going to be way behind. And so I think it's a good, I don't want to hold the teachers accountable and for that. So it's just been a perfect storm this year. I definitely would halt all testing this year.
Thank you. The second question.
Okay. I'm just hiding down here on the end. I'm going to likewise concur with everybody up here. Our kids, I have an 8-year-old and 2 high schoolers, one that's going to go into 11th grade and one that's going into 12th grade. These kids, my kids, are stressed. Working in the schools with these teachers are stressed. My elementary school kids that I work at are stressed. It's like they spend the entire season right after Christmas prepping for test. That's all they do for months, and it's test, 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 test. Finish with the test in April, and then the entire school can breathe. That's the relaxed time and the relaxed atmosphere that I've seen teachers actually been able to teach students, old-fashioned teaching. We are over-tested, and I don't think that, not just last year, the upcoming year, we should put it aside. I think we should take a look at every year in the future. I'm going to agree with Mr. Kreisky. Did I pronounce it correct? These kids only need to be tested 2, possibly 3 times throughout their school career. Admin, our administrators at our school are highly stressed, prepping for it. And my understanding, and you guys correct me wrong if I'm wrong here, but my understanding is that there's several $100,000 worth of tests that are sitting in a warehouse right now. Correct? And I'm also under the impression, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you guys that are on the board, this upcoming year, they're already planning 3 major tests for these kids when they're coming back. It's like the fall, the winter, and spring. Is that correct? So we did away with it this year because of COVID, and the kids are behind. They're coming back, and now the teachers have to be stressed over administering these tests and getting them prepped and ready for it. And these students also have to be stressed out 3 different times after already being behind. Sorry, 7 seconds.
You're good, man. Thank you to the school board candidates. Your second question This is going to be sensitive, but we're going to get through it, okay? It is stated that our oldest two high schools are in desperate need of repair, while thousands of dollars are being spent on software to upgrade the new schools. What are your thoughts to address the need of school maintenance and repairs? We're going to start with Ms. Claire Maxwell and work our way here. Mr.
Thank you.
Dowdy, you'll be the last one.
Thank you for that question. I currently work at one of the oldest schools. Proud school, a legacy school. A lot of good people graduated from Riverdale. But I have been distressed over the last couple of years at the look and the neglect that's been going on. I kind of kept waiting. We'll be on that next capital project. Oh, I know we'll be. They'll see, they'll see, they'll see. No, we weren't. And so I was distressed a couple of years ago when they had that terrible shooting down at Parkland High School in Florida. And I immediately came into my administration and I said, we've got a real problem here. I said, Riverdale and Oakland, in their open concept of 1972, that is really, really setting up for disaster. Something really bad could happen here. Someone could come, bell could ring, kids would be coming back and forth and all the way. We've got to fix this. And my solution was, let's enclose the courtyard. Let's do that at Riverdale and Oakland. When we do that, not only are we going to make the kids safer, we're going to be out of those dreaded portables that Riverdale and Oakland have been in for 20 years. Seemed like a no-brainer. For some reason, it just never did take off, and I kept waiting for someone to notice that. But I really feel like if we don't make our older schools a priority now, 5-10 years down the road, I don't know what we're going to be able to do. I have parents coming up to me telling me, is my school going to exist in 10 years? And I don't know what to tell them, except I'm going to try. I'm going to do my darndest, and I'm going to try.
I think with my time being on the board, I can probably answer a lot of those questions. Basically, each year we're allotted. Well, right now it's on the tax. It's on the tax rate, nickel off tax rate to fund capital projects. We've got 48, 49 schools, and we've got a maintenance plan that the board looks at. Capital projects the board looks at every year. As far as taking care of all the schools. I will say, which I went back and did a little checking on amount of money spent between Oakland and Riverdale for the last 8 years. Riverdale was, I think, $12.5 million spent on that particular school, just various things. I'm talking about, I think this year, I think they're going to get a new stage. Soffit's going to be painted, columns, 2 columns. Generally, when they do something, I'm talking about when they do something, I'm talking about the board or the board. They generally try to do equal things for both of them. But as I mentioned, Riverdale just a while ago at 12.5. I think Oakland was 11.4 million. Like I said, that goes back over 8 years. But if you look at the small amount of money that we're dealing with, this year I think we're allotted 7.5 million. I think last year we were 7.2, and the year before that we were like 5.6 million. And that's money for all the schools. If you have one of these chillers go out, something along that line, and you use a lot of your money up. So I'll say it from a board standpoint. I want to see all the schools taken care of, and I think the board makes an effort to do that. And central office, they're the ones that bring everything to us, and we have to decipher it. So, you as far as planning goes anymore, you can't. The way our schools are changing, the population, and everything else, you can't plan out too far. So, we look at you know, we look at the building program and capital projects on a yearly basis. I'd say we're doing pretty good. That's my personal opinion.
Is without a doubt a good question and a very challenging subject. And as Mr. Hodges pointed out, there is not enough money to go around for everything that we need to do, growth of this county and upkeep of all of our schools. I do certainly think that there are some areas when it comes to upkeep, maintenance, and taking care of these older schools where we do need to sit back and take a harder look. To Mrs. Maxwell's point, if we're talking about a difference in spending money for something that's going to keep our children safe versus do we need new software or do we need a prettier track or something at this school, we have to prioritize those things based on those needs and those priorities. And there is no higher priority than keeping our kids safe, making sure that they have a safe environment to go to school in as well, which includes certainly replacing chillers. But as Mr. Hodge again pointed out, it is very challenging because there's only so much money to go around. But that's where we need to prioritize. And I do think the board could, moving forward into the future, make an effort to take a harder look at these things and really talk about them and dive deeper into where those dollars need to be spent than perhaps we have been doing in the past.
I mentioned earlier that I had spent 16 years as a director of schools and school superintendent, led two different districts. I came into these districts, and they were having money crunches. They had children in portable trailers, much like we see at some of our schools now here in Rutherford County. We got all those children into brick and mortar classrooms within 18 months in both districts. I think capital projects, it's very important to ask the right questions. And when I talk about my experience, it's not that I am saying I know all the answers. In fact, I probably don't know any of the answers. But what I do know, I know the questions to ask. And that's what I think Ms. Moore is alluding to also. Let's ask the questions. Let's find out. Let's see what the priorities are. And maybe as a board, we don't think the priority needs to be here. Maybe it needs to be somewhere else. And so I think that's what I would bring. I think that capital projects is a very touchy subject, as already been mentioned, because everybody has their own favorite idea or thing or school. So the decisions need to be made by a very objective school board with the input of the administrative staff. I think with the board working together with the staff and asking those tough questions, the good questions, I think it can be upgrades to the schools that are now maybe not where they need to be. Thank you.
A really good question. Talking about software, you want to be careful when you invest in software because technology is constantly changing. As far as Oakland Riverdale go, to answer the question specifically, every day I manage a budget, and it takes that kind of diligence, going through it line by line, item by item, and finding those funds and being creative. You learn that over a period of 30 years that yes, you do have to put some things to aside, and you do have to include your staff, include your teachers, include your other board members. But it's something that you got to enjoy doing. You got to make that a priority, the safety of the children, the correction of facilities that need those repairs. And you got to communicate it to the public. And you do that by being accessible and open lines and say, okay, we cannot do it at this time, but here's our plan for it. That's the way I see that we should be working on financials, as far as fixing Oakland, Riverdale, or any other school that needs repair.
Mr. Trey Lee has one of the toughest jobs at our central office. He's the one that gets to decide, brings it to the board, what projects needs to be done initially. And when you've got $90 million worth of backlog projects, guys, do the math. $7.5 million will not catch you up. It won't catch us up. We have a funding issue in this county when it comes to schools. We spend all of our time trying to figure out how we're going to build a new school, buy land for new schools. Money's just not there. When you got a funding issue like we have, where it's so outdated, it's over 20 years since we've raised our building impact fees. It costs more to buy a water tap in Rutherford County than it does a building permit to build a house. Something's wrong. It's got to be changed. It's not that our central office people aren't going up there and talking to the county commission about this. But you know what it all comes back to? Nobody wants to raise taxes. That's the word that nobody wants to hear. And as long as we're going to sit tight on our pocketbooks, not fund these schools like we need to, we're going to see more and more of this stuff. Oakland High School, I think it took over 10 or 12 years for us to roof that school. They had to roof it a section at a time. When you got chillers going out, these things cost lots of money. It's $1.5 million or more to put a new chiller into a school system. You got roofs that cost $500,000 and up. It's just not enough money there. We've got to get innovative. We've got to figure out ways that we can get our county commission to buy in to allotting more money to catch these projects up, because we're not going to get there the way we're doing it now.
That's a very good question, and another one of my little sore subject pet peeves. I work at a school, an elementary school that's in Laverne. This year it's 21 years old. When was Riverdale built? 72. Well, just to put some things in perspective, now my school is overcrowded. We have over 1,100 elementary students. We're getting a new addition on our school that's going to add 25 more classrooms that should be ready for this fall. 25 more classrooms, do the math, on an average of 23 to 25 students per classroom. We can add anywhere between 450 and 600 more students at an elementary school. My school is 21 years old, and yet over the summer and through COVID, we've had our entire floors replaced on the older building, the 21-year-old. The entire school's been painted. Our bathroom floors have been redone. They're redoing our gym floors. New phone lines, new computer systems. They went and replaced all the clocks. I don't know why they're replacing clocks, but you tell me how many millions of dollars that they're spending here that they could have taken to one of these older schools like Laverne High School, Riverdale, Central, McFadden, Walter Hill, Laverne Primary. That school and Laverne Primary and Walter Hill in horrible shape. And I know it took years to get just the security doors put on the front of Walter Hill. So I think it's, and I got to throw this in there, the track. They resurfaced the track, or they're in the process of resurfacing the track at Laverne High School. I understand that it's an important thing for kids to be able to run on, but it's not even the proper size to hold competitions on. And it's not. So they can't even hold regular competitions on it. But yet they're resurfacing the track instead of fixing the chillers that are going out on schools. And they're replacing my entire school. And there's older schools that are in more dire need than mine. You know, bathroom stall doors that are falling off. It's just properly managing that money on the right projects instead of pet projects and extracurricular stuff for sporting events or sporting facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dowdy. City Council candidates. Starting with you, Mr. Wright, then Mr. Shacklett, then Mr. Wade. With an estimated population of 146,000 plus in our city, do you think it's time for a full-time mayor? Why or why not?
I think there's a lot of advantages to a full-time mayor. You have somebody that is held accountable by the voters. So unlike a city manager who is appointed by and serves at the council and mayor's need, the full-time mayor is held accountable by the voters. So at any time when a voter can say, okay, I don't like what's going on here, we go take them out at the next election.
Well, they can, just to correct the thing, I mean, basically, when he runs every 4 years, every 2 years, he could be taken out the same way, so. Oh, well, but the issue serves a different purpose. The role that has served us well, and this kind of relates back to the question about district representation. Dialogue has to occur. One thing in some of the other discussions, I love this kind of format. I just wish we had longer time where we could actually hear each other and communicate the full thought that we have with each other, and hopefully we'll do that more. I'd happen not only between city council and the school board, but maybe other that represent us. It can be helpful. I'm not sure right now I would support a full-time mayor. I'd like to hear more discussion about it. You throw something out there and question when it gets defined, it's something different. Oh, that's what you were talking about. Hey, I'd like a hamburger. And I give you a veggie burger. And you say, wait a minute, no, I wanted a hamburger. So we have to know specifically what are you talking about and how are we going to implement it? What implications does that mean? We define that question, we can say whether we're for it or against it. The broad question of whether we're for a full-time mayor needs more detail behind it for me to be able to tell you whether I'm for it or would be against it. But I'm again worthy of discussion, I guess, at some point in time.
You didn't answer that, Bill.
So I left it to you to answer, Kurt.
I'm sort of like what Bill said. I don't know if we're at the point where we need a full-time. We have people talking that we need a full-time, yet mayor's working full-time now. Even though we're busy, we're all busy. Do you need a full-time council and mayor? Because we all put in a lot of hours. And so I think we have to have more dialogue and more discussion about full-time mayor. We just can't just throw stuff out there and see if it sticks. I think there has to be a reason we need a full-time mayor. No, I didn't answer that.
Okay, Mr. Way. City council candidates. Question. The city has experienced 2 recent protests/marches. One march theme centered on Confederate statue, which sits in the center of our town. The question that was presented, do you think this monument needs to be removed? And how would you handle the growing unrest? I'm going to start with you, Mr. Shacklet, followed by Mr. Wade, then Mr. Wright.
These are the fun ones here. Let me tell you, protesting and demonstrating is a part of the fundamental right that we have as citizens in this country. Something that needs to be protected, something that it's a part of our political discourse, our ability to talk with each other, sometimes done. As I had a phrase that said, the one common experience that we all have in the midst of this, whether we're red, blue, whatever, liberal, conservative, whatever, the common experience that we're going through in the midst of this pandemic is the fact that we're all frustrated. We're all anxious. We don't know about tomorrow, and we don't know how we're going to get there or if we're going to get there. But I have a sign on my office that I have to reflect upon periodically, and it says, when you're down to nothing, God's up to something. I choose to believe that there's something great about to happen. We have to claim it. It's our time. I've lived long enough to see the civil rights movement, lived long enough to see women take a vital place in our community. Vietnam, all those things that back in the 60s and 70s, I remember being a part of the generation that was going to change that. Those older folks just didn't know what they were doing. They just realized what we need to do. Look where we are. some of those same issues still remain. We have to have dialogue. We have to learn to trust each other. We have to listen to opposing positions. Be willing to invite change. Change is not linear. It just doesn't happen like this. Change it ebbs and it flows. And we hope that in the long run we look back, because, you know, there's another phrase that I love too. We're not what we want to be. We're not what we're going to be. But thank God we're not what we were. If any of us have lived long enough to look back, I'm glad we're not where we were. And if we're going to go forward, these issues have to be addressed as we learn to trust and respect each other, and respectful dialogue, and appreciate people's opinions.
I was quoted in the paper 2 weeks ago that said, Kurt Wade said, "Do not remove the statues." And that was a quote from 2 years ago. They didn't quote the whole entire story, what I said. I said, do not remove the statue if you're not going to replace what's in your heart. That's really what it boils down to, root of the problem. You can remove the statue, but if people still have the same hatred in their heart, it defeats the whole thing. You can move the statues to the museum. You can take them to the battleground. But if you can't change the root of the problem, and the root of the problem is changing people's mindset of how to treat your brother, how to treat your sister, until that happens, it doesn't really matter.
Not as bad. And like Mr. Shacklet said, we've got to sit down and we've got to communicate. We've got to get on the same page. Are we going to get along or not get along? Are we going to understand and agree with each other all the time? Absolutely. We've got to get to the point where we can sit down and have a good dialogue while we're having the discussion, where we want to go and how to get there. Without those sit down and discussions, we're all going to be going in opposite directions, just pointing at the other one, saying it's your fault where we're here. Can't do that. We got to sit down and we got to talk and get to where we need to be.
Thank you. Your next question, City Council. It seems that most of our development concerning infrastructure place emphasis on business instead of quality of life. How would you ensure that there is a balance? Mr. Wade, Mr. Wright, Mr. Shacklet.
Business and quality of life. I think we're making strides. It's really not about business, because business attract people. You got business, you bring people into your city. And one of the things that we're trying to do with that is, if you look at the Franklin Synergy building, what we're trying to bring there is a complex that brings people downtown, quality of life, walking, living downtown. So we're making strides to do that. If you look at what's happening in the Medical Center Parkway area, you've got new business coming, but you also got people moving in that area. They're able to walk to restaurants, they're able to walk to the mall. So we're making strides to make that happen.
I think when we're talking about the life versus, got to look at environment. One thing I've noticed, we live right next to Barfield Park. And one thing I've noticed the past few months going through COVID, I've seen more people at Barfield Park in the past 3 months than I probably have cumulatively the past 10 years that I've lived on that side of town. And so when we're looking at quality of life and slowing down, a lot of quality of life issues comes down to the household and the people of, are we going to live a life that's just constantly going? Are we going to slow down? Are we going to spend time with our children? Are we going to go to the park? Are we going to go to the pool? Are we going to go on vacation? Quality of life is something that you decide on a household thing, and it expands out. And the city can say, hey, we want to build all these parks, but like we said, I've lived near Barfield Park for 10 years. I've seen more people cumulatively there in the past 3 months than I have the whole entire time, because the people have chosen to slow down during this time.
This is another question I wish I had a lot longer to talk about, because I was reading something today about WPA, that happened in the late 30s up through the 43, I think it was. we made it, we were coming out of the Depression, and what are we going to do? And basically what they said, they made a significant investment in the arts and equipped people to use their skills, paid them a salary to work for the federal government to basically do and create a lot of projects, statues we're talking about earlier. But certainly wall murals and other things were done through the WPA, but the government had a part in that. So to me, and if anybody knows me very much, I serve on the art committee for the city as well. Certainly have an appreciation of art. I'd like us to think about how we can creatively address some of these issues, quality of life that we have. And it comes when we connect people. It's individuals that make a difference in people's lives. All of us can look back at the way who's inspired us. If we can connect people with the programs and then help that program actually point someone to a better future. And that is a long, there are people doing it in the private sector in our community. There's programs that are being done in certain areas of our communities that are trying to engage people that way. I think government can help that. I think government can be a part of that, facilitating it, encouraging it for sure. And that makes a significant difference in how people view their future. A lot of this problems that we're having in our communities is because people feel hopeless. They don't see a route out of the circumstances that they live in. And I think that's something very productive that we could spend our time investing in, equipping people to do the job of inspiring people. The arts is certainly a way to do that.
Thank you. And now to the school board candidates. We'll start with Mr. Dowdy, and we'll work our way to Ms. Maxwell. Do you favor consolidating Murfreesboro city schools into Rutherford County schools? Why? Why not?
Honestly, I'm okay with it either way. No, that's funny, and I'm not going to take 2 minutes to tell you that either, but I think the only problem with that at the moment is that we're already tight on funding for keeping up with the current schools that we have. So we would be taking over another set of schools, not knowing what sort of condition they're in. Now, I don't know what the stipulations would be behind that, whether or not the city would kick in more funds for helping us pay for the schools or repairing the schools. I've always questioned, I used to work for Murfreesboro City. Now, always question why we have city and county schools anyway, and it's just the elementary schools, my understanding, and a couple of art schools, not mistaken. But honestly, it's not one of those things that I'd be adamantly for or against either way, so.
Say that the city school system has worked fine, the way it's been working. Our county schools, we're getting by. As far as funding, I just don't see how we're going to be able to combine two. We can't even build enough county schools now to keep up with the growth. Funding is the issue with Rutherford County. The growth is so fast here, no way that we can keep up with it. And if there was a magic wand and we could wave it and come up with all kind of money, then that might be something to look at, but I would still want to do the numbers and make sure that there's a savings there. It's beneficial for both city and county to combine. Just have not seen enough study on that to really comment at this time.
I agree. First thing you got to do is listen to your taxpayers and your voters and teachers, students, faculty, and you got to list the pros and cons. Everyone listening tonight probably has their own opinion, but until we list the pros and cons and really deep dive into the issue, then we cannot, any of us, I don't think, can respond with a definite answer. My personal opinion is I don't think the county's prepared to take on the city schools right now, but that's just an opinion. So I really think that we would, if we was going to do that, then we need to spend a lot more time investigating it and reviewing it with the taxpayers and county commissioners.
I have a definite answer because I was the superintendent of a county district that had a city district inside, and then the second district that I was the superintendent of was a city district. And in both cases, there was constant talk about consolidation. I learned a great deal from those two experiences. And what I learned is there's a huge argument on the side of consolidation for economy of scale. That's what people will say. That's what they will claim. You can save thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, on economy of scale. What they failed to consider, and what I learned, was that there should be a very intensive study done of the smaller school district, the city district, and how much funding it might lose. Because this city district, and if I understand the statistics like I believe I do, about 24% of Rutherford County students are economically disadvantaged, or something around there, 24%, and it's quite a bit higher for the city. So the federal funding that would be lost through consolidation, because when the county absorbed those economically disadvantaged students, would be spread out over a wider group of students, that federal funding would no longer be there to assist those students that are now getting those funds in the city. That is a heavy weight on the side for not consolidating. And it usually, in most cases, if the studies are done very extensively, in most cases it would outweigh any economy of scale that would be benefited, that you would benefit from by consolidation. You know, people say economy of scale, so that means we only have to have one superintendent or one director of schools. We only have to have one school board, so forth and so on. You know, you save some money there, but usually not the money that you would lose on federal funding. And that's money that goes directly, basically directly to students and supporting those students who are economically disadvantaged. So that's why I say I have a definite idea, not about whether to do it or not, but how to go about finding out whether it needs to be done.
Subject that times over the years in Rutherford County, and it is definitely a tough one. Got to look at the economy of scale and whether or not that outweighs. And I think I can't answer that question this evening as to how I feel one way or the other, because as everybody prior to me already pointed out, there is way, way too much study and information that's got to be gathered before we make a decision as a community, whether or not that even makes sense. The systems, and I'm normally a very firm believer in the if it isn't broke, don't fix it, but we also have to be willing to think out of the box and look at other options and opportunities to best manage our community and handle the growth that's going on. So it merits a lot more discussion, a lot more study before I think it could really ensure a strong.
At this time, personally, I'm not in favor of trying to take on the city. I think both got very good school systems, and you know, I really couldn't see. I guess probably a simple way to put it, as everybody knows, it's the county's responsibility to educate every child. I'd hate to know the city decides to get out of the education business, what we're going to do financially. You know, as far as buildings and everything else, I mean, we have a rough enough time trying to take care of what we got, much less trying to take on a whole nother set of buildings. And at this point, like I said, I really think as long as we got two good school systems, I think both school systems work well together. I've seen that happen over the years, and I know from a board level that the communication has gotten a whole lot better through the years. And right now, I don't see a real reason to to consolidate them down.
I'm going to concur. I don't really think this is something we need to do now. I don't know, 10, 20 years from now, we rethink it. We seem to do that about every 5 to 10 years. We rethink this. I guess it was 50-50 when I was out campaigning and door knocking. I would get this question up, and 50% were like, we need to do this, and we need to do this now. This is just stupid. And then other people were like, no, we don't need to do that. We need to keep them separate. I concur with Mr. Hodge. I think the city school does a good job. And I think we have got all that we can save grace to right now. And coming out of COVID, we don't know what the situation's going to be in a couple of years. But I don't believe that's something we need to do. I really like the way that we have our county schools set up. And so I would not be in favor of that.
Starting with you, Ms. Maxwell, and we'll work our way here. Final to Dowdy. What do you see as the current challenges facing public education in our county? How would you address?
I think one of the biggest ones is how we're going to come into this season, this school session out of COVID-19. I don't know where the children are going to be. I don't know where they are going to be mentally and physically and emotionally. And I work with a lot of vulnerable kids who, on a good day, have a lot of problems and anxieties. And coming out of this, I don't know where they're going to be. We're trying to go back to some sort of normal, but we never know what's around the corner. And so I think that the biggest challenges we're going to have are just making sure that every child gets served properly and that we take into account their mental and physical health. I'm just really scared for some of my kids. I worried about them all summer long, making sure they were getting fed and that they were taken care of. Mom and dad, some of them have two parents in the home, some of them don't. But I believe that is, we're going to have a mental health crisis on our hands, I'm afraid. And so I really care about my kids and all the kids. And I believe that's going to be one of our greatest challenges is seeing these children through and trying to get them back on some sense of normal.
Oh, I'll concur with Ms. Maxwell, which since we've been dealing with trying to figure out a plan to get back to school. I know the board members that are currently on the board. I was just counting yesterday. I've gotten 74 emails, from teachers, parents, and so you try to just try putting all that together. It's a challenge, and I really don't know I don't have any good answers. I mean, you look at the options that have been basically put forth, and there's advantages, disadvantages to everything. But I agree, that's the big challenge we've got. I used to say growth is our biggest challenge, but right now this is bigger than that right at the present time. So hopefully, with everyone working together, we'll be able to get started and try to get back on the right track.
Yeah, right now, I think I know I myself, and I'm sure my fellow board members and other people in this community, especially our teachers, the same way, feel a little bit like firemen right now, running around trying to put out this huge fire. Everything else is kind of starting to pale. And, that was a year ago, we were talking, how are we going to handle all the building programs and so on? And today what's facing us, and I know the phrase has been really overused, but when you talk about these are unprecedented, it really is. None of us have ever seen anything quite like this, and certainly from a reopening of schools and how we're going to handle this and what it's going to look like, there's absolutely no question. It is without a doubt, the toughest issue that we have ever dealt with, in my opinion. And everybody does have an opinion. And as we all know, and especially as board members that have been inundated with, and rightfully so, I'm glad these parents and teachers, and mine are well over 100. I've probably had 30 or 40 phone calls at this point too, and I am endeavoring to return all of them. But whatever we decide about this return to school is going to make somebody unhappy, or it's going to make someone happy. There's a lot of different schools of thought out there, so this is definitely the toughest issue. And we're not going to make everybody happy. But my solution right now, because I do think that was really part of the question, well, what would you do about it, is that we have, and I do think the board and the system is working very hard to make this happen, we have to be able to offer a return to school opportunity that's going to fit all of our kids. And when I think that was Ms. Maxwell's talked about with the emotional health and those issues, I think we're doing a lot more emotional damage to our kids, keeping them out of school, quite frankly, than we are returning them. So we do have a question of physical health versus emotional health. But then we do have to be prepared and willing to offer the opportunities to the students that are immunity impaired, that they're able to be educated in the manner that we're expected to educate them without having to come to school. So definitely the biggest one. I know, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit over time, but obviously the next one would be growth. I think that at this point is probably a subject for.
I concur that certainly getting back in school is on the top of everyone's list of importance for the district and for every district probably across the United States. I think there needs to be flexibility. That's already been mentioned that if parents and students truly believe they're not going to be safe in school, then there should be an alternative for them if they can't return to school or don't feel like they can return to school safely. But the other part of flexibility is the school system has to be ready to make changes on a dime. They need to be prepared for what's around the next corner, because what's around the next corner might be some statistics that would say, hey, we've got to make a change. We can't have our students come into a particular school. And so I think that the preparation, and I'm sure that it's being made right now, needs to be for there to be a great deal of flexibility, and it should be per school. For example, if students are allowed to come back into the buildings, as we hope they are this fall, if there is an infection in one of the buildings, that should just affect those students. It shouldn't affect the whole population of the school district. And so I think having many branches on the plan is very, very important. So that's what I would stress. This is as we have already seen, this is a very much evolving type of situation. We don't know from one day to the next or 1 week to the next what the future is going to bring. So we need to have a district that's prepared to come back full-time if possible, give parents that option to keep their students and do it online if they wish, but also be prepared to make changes during the school year.
I agree with all the candidates up here tonight, and what's really pleasing to me is we're all in an election, but I think we're all united in being local school board candidates, that we want to work together as a community to address all the issues that these fine ladies and gentlemen talked about. I know they've sent out some items to the teachers and to the parents, and I think the school system is doing a wonderful job of that. At this time, I think we're all going to have to work together closer than ever for the benefit of our children. They outweigh anything we're doing tonight, and put them first, put our teachers first, listen to them, address their issues, and work together. Thank you.
I concur. I mean, this is the toughest decision I've had to face since I've been on the board. And, decision, try to weigh it out logically. And I don't know there is a right decision. We just got to try to make the best decision. And I know our central office is working very hard trying to put plans together, send out surveys to our parents. They've sent out surveys to our teachers. They're really trying to gather information here, and they've given us some options. We do have options, and we just got to, as a board, figure out what that best option is. Like I said, I don't know that it's going to be the right decision, but hopefully we can make the best.
Go ahead and start. Before you forget me, I concur with everyone up here, and I'm actually glad I'm not on the board at this moment and not having to make those decisions for an upcoming school year. That is a big question about what's coming up. I do feel like it should be the choice of parents. I do feel schools should open. It should be a choice of parents whether or not they want to, feel safe enough to send their children. But also for those students, I think shouldn't be shortchanged. I think whether it's distance learning, I feel like it should be as equivalent quality education as the current 100 that's getting the inaugural online classes this year. Something else that I want to jump to because it'll probably take the rest of my time. Being law enforcement, school resource officer, I see a lot of things that happen in schools. And I've worked in elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, alternative schools. It's an ongoing problem is behavior. Mental health is in the schools. Mental health issues in the schools. Not equipped to take care of these issues. Teachers are being assaulted. And in the meantime, what I've seen with the current behavior plan that is being implemented is that a lot of schools, and I talked to all the SROs, a lot of schools, this behavior plan is not working. My understanding is Williamson County did away with it and went away from the RTIB program, which is B is for behavior, and the RTI generally for like reading, math, the extra help for students. And there are some teachers, there are some administrators that are all for this program. They say it works in their school. I do think we need to reevaluate what's not working in other schools. We need to better equip these administrators and these teachers on how to handle behavior issues, students that have mental health issues. And we are seeing an increase in it. Seeing it in an increase with it in law enforcement altogether. And it's starting in with our children in schools. It's there. I think it's always been there. I just think we're seeing more and more just as population grows. We need something to do with these children to where they're still getting an education, getting the help that they need with the mental health issues. Yeah, sorry for running over.
Thank you. Thank you. City Council candidates. We're going to start with you, Mr. Wright, then Mr. Shacklet, then Mr. Wade. Question came up many times. Do you think racism exists in our city? And what are your recommendations to bring a resolve?
Back to what is sitting down at the table and actually listening to what, not just listening, but hearing. There are things that go on in other races that I can't begin to fathom. I haven't walked in those shoes. The only way I can understand it is to sit there and listen to somebody who has walked those shoes, how they think they should, that those things can be corrected, work together to try to fix those issues that I have no idea, that I've never been. So I think the best way to handle those issues is to sit down, let's talk, get on the same page, and let's move forward. The only way I think we can get rid of those issues, like Mr. Wade said earlier, until we can remove the hate from people's hearts, it's hard to get moving forward, but we at least got to know how to go that direction.
Well, another question that deserves a lot longer answer than 2 minutes, but they're human beings in this city? Probably racism. Part of racism is, sadly to say, even though we've struggled with this years, I had the occasion to look at something, had a chance to look at Hamilton. If you haven't, my wife and I went to it at TPAC, and then we've watched the message in there that we're all flawed human beings. Every one of us. Best weaknesses. That's where we are. Recognize that. Part of that human journey is reflection on who we are. The answer came from Tony Evans in a devotional I was doing the other day. What we need is individuals willing to invest in individuals so that fundamental change is possible in individual lives, families, communities. Individuals are changed and communities are transformed when people invest in each other, help them look beyond what they currently see. We don't need other institutions. This is one of those institutions active in our community. Churches. Because what fundamental is wrong with us is a spiritual problem. We don't address the fundamental cause. We can tear the statue down and remove the flag. We can do all of that just like I said. We will still in our communities. My challenge for each of us to look, what am I doing? What am I doing? Do that, your sphere of influence, will address racism in our community, and it will be substantive change that will transform communities. Pray for that. That for Murfreesboro, I pray for that. For Tennessee, I pray for that for our country. We'll be that shining light.
Yes, racism does exist. I think what I said in council a couple weeks ago is when Bill leaves, his kids leave the house, he tells them, have a good evening, have a good time. I got to tell my boys, hey, you guys be safe. You get stopped by the cops, first thing you do is call me. Then I still got to worry about if they're going to make it back home. That's the things that you might not have to do to your kids. That's what I have to do to my kids. They could be doing the right thing, but still not come back home. Till you understand that dialogue and understand what you have to go through, it's never going to change. So that's why you got to have dialogue about race. You got to talk about it, and you've got to be compassionate. You know, you were just talking about the school board, some of the things about the school board, and you're just talking about the children. Little Johnny doesn't go home and eat 3 meals after he get out of school, and his last meal when he left school that day, then you think he's going to come back and be the normal kid, the great kid, he's ready to learn. It just doesn't work like that. But you got to have teachers that have compassion to understand, hey, he didn't sleep last night. He might have slept on the floor. He might not even sleep at all. But he's coming to school that next day, and you think he can be alert and attentive like the other kids. It doesn't work like that. So you got to have compassion on both ends.
Thank you. Question again for our city council. What police reforms do you favor for Murfreesboro Police Department? Starting with you, Mr. Shacklett.
Well, like I said earlier tonight that it's probably one of the toughest jobs that we ask anybody to do. A human being has to be in his judgment issue is, are we willing to look at things as they exist and move forward? So I think that our police department is willing to look at itself honestly at each circumstance and situation. Every circumstance has a little different nuance to it. You know, we years ago we had an incident on our square, and get to see a lot of these because that's where my studio is. And we boarded up last time, but the first time we didn't board up. And I sat outside and listened to what some of our police officers had to take. I had to talk to police officers. They were told, as long as it's words, don't have to don't react. Things you can react to, but words, don't worry about it. And I heard them take a lot of abuse that I certainly wouldn't want my pastor to do or my child to listen. So you have to keep on training. You have to keep on helping them understand their position in this community and the role that they play. Then make sure that those kind of people of character are serving in our police department. And there's always work to be done. Train our teachers, and they go to. It's always something that they can learn. I'd be for all of that. Fortunately, I think we have a force that's teachable, wanting to be more professional, wanting to examine fairly what they have done right and what they may have done could do better. I think that ongoing training is part of it, and I think that's part of what we need to be doing.
I agree with what Bill said. I think there's a couple different things that we also have to deal with counseling for our police officers too. Going through a lot of stress on a daily basis. Are we making sure that they're being taken care of, their well-being is taken care of as well? No-knock warrants. I mean, there's a couple different things that I think we're eventually going to put on the table. As of right now, I just think it's a work in progress.
I actually agree with what both these gentlemen said. It's a work in progress, and it's something we got to move to. I mentioned body cams earlier, exactly talking about training and continual training. I've heard the idea of adding counselors under the police umbrella to take care of suicide prevention, homelessness, maybe some drug overdose things, try to help out, but do that under the police umbrella. Police can be a backdrop. Wade mentioned no-knock warrants. I think that's even being taken care of on the federal level. So as we move, but like we've talked about the whole night, let's sit and talk and get a dialogue open and move forward together. As long as we're moving forward together and as a team, we're all going to get the results or move towards the results that we're looking to move toward.
Thank you. Starting with Mr. Dowdy. I got this thing going now. We ain't gonna get messed. We ain't gonna mess up. Right, left, right. Okay. A question. I understand that we're, as some say, we're strapped financially. This question came up several times via email. Concerned individuals saying, should the county look for options to build a middle school inside the urban core of Murfreesboro, like Broad to Rutherford, Northfield to Broad? Don't those neighborhoods deserve a school of their own rather than being sliced and diced to be bused to 6 different middle schools, many quite far away?
Again, going back to, first off, is their room, is their space. I think understand the premise, because the high schools have the same situation. Understand the premise of here's city, you have a pie shape district. That's to give diversity in the schools. Now, I will say that I'm very aware of several elementary schools aren't as diverse as other elementary schools or middle schools or high schools. Do they deserve their own middle school? Absolutely. I would say yes to that. Again, comes down to cost and location. I mean, is there property available at an affordable cost to be able to put one there?
That's the issue I have with trying to do something like that. First of all, property. We're struggling right now finding property to build a middle school and a high school. We're on the Highway 96 area, Downville Road area. So, I mean, to build a middle school, you got to have at least 50 acres. I don't know where there's 50 acres right here in the city of Murfreesboro we could afford, then build the middle school. You got some Hoover property out there on Manchester Highway, but we own property already on Buckhannon that's ready to be built on. I think the pad's already there. So we could either expand that middle school out there, or we could build another high school out there. That's the issue I see, is just the cost factor and being able to find the land. If we could do it and fit within our budget, we get the approval on it, and I'd be all for it. But I just don't know that we've got the availability of the land. Definitely the funds is always an issue. So.
Yes, I'd like to see a school, but we don't currently have the funding, nor do we have the property. But take that ideal and, like Mr. Young just talked about, and break it down. Maybe we just keep looking for newer ideals. A lot of times you start out with one thought and you expand that. Maybe you come up with a different solution. But I agree, right now we don't have the funding nor the land available to build a school.
I'm all for neighborhood schools when they can be provided. I think we've talked all around this, but I think the district could do a feasibility study to find out the cost, to find out if there is land. And I don't think a feasibility study internally by the district would cost that much to do. But it could answer a lot of questions for both the administration, the school board, and those folks that are asking the questions. Because once you put the numbers on paper and see what it is, what those concrete numbers are, you can see whether it's worth the time and the effort and the funding to try to move forward in that direction. So I think that's what should happen. Let Ray and those people do that feasibility study and bring it to the board.
And the question in terms of angst that some of these parents are feeling, that I think it's a wonderful concept. And in practicality, is it something that would work? And I don't think we have the answers to that tonight. One of the things that I do know there are certain, of course, economies of scale, as we all know, building the schools together now, as we're trying to. Of course, the intent behind that all along was to have go back to the neighborhood type schools. So to build a middle school by itself, again, if we find the land, I think all the financials of that would have to be looked at. But me, this question all kind of ties back and goes back to how we're doing our zoning and the way this county continues to grow and morph. But no sooner than we think we figured it out that, yeah, you know, this area, these kids are going to go and we're having to do the whole thing. It's a continuing problem that we're going to have to deal with, and I do think some changes that could be. One of the things that I think does relate to this question that I've been asking for a while, and I think the board has a responsibility to the community to do, and that is we have got to start thinking out of the box for solutions to always having to continue to build. So I've asked for several years for the board to have a retreat to study this, to look at whether there are things we can do in terms of block schedules or even leasing properties perhaps to move schools or certain segments to. So think there's a lot of questions around this. I like the concept. I just don't know that it's doable right now.
Really, there's not a whole lot more I can add that's already been mentioned. I think the biggest issue is a land issue. I can tell you from a board standpoint, through the years, we've been pretty open with the general public, pretty open with realtors, or just anybody out there that's got land, come to us. And anything anymore, close to the city, within the city or whatever, cost of it gotten high. And I really don't know what the solution is, because they're not making any more land, and start looking around within the city, land basically to build a school on is not there. I'm all for community schools. I like the concept of what we were doing there for a while with, say, Blackman's. I like the idea of the middle school and high school sharing facilities, athletic facilities. Anymore, it's just not possible because of the land. Have a good solution.
This is a great question. There is a high school in Rutherford County that doesn't have a middle school. It's Riverdale High School. I did not know what was going through the board's mind when they decided to build Whitworth Buchanan and Oakland Middle School, and not Oakland Middle School and Riverdale Middle School, because I could already tell that they had fallen in love with the idea of an elementary, a middle, and a high school. I've been waiting. Riverdale has lost a lot of good land around the school that's gone for other things. And, but without a middle school, I don't know about the viability of the school. And I could be very open to a middle school because Riverdale is probably the closest one to in town. I think it's worth a feasibility study to find a middle school. I have actually been driving around trying to find land because I care about this so much. I've made some calls, and it is expensive. It really is. But I don't think it's something we need to undertake as a board, because I've had a lot of questions about the not having a middle school closer to in town. My children went to Central Middle School, and I really feel like this is something that we should really explore in a feasibility study, and just keep trying to find some land, because I really feel like Riverdale needs a middle school as well, and it would kind of take care of an issue that's parents don't want to send their kids to a school that stands alone. They want that family, they want that middle school, the kids want to go together, and right now that's not going to happen. In 10, 12 years, if we ever were to build a Christiana, then a Whitworth Buchanan, where does that leave Riverdale? And I don't like the position they've been put in. If I'd been on the board, I would have voted not to build Whitworth Buchanan Middle School, and I would have built a Riverdale Middle. But it is what it is, and I really think we owe it to the parents and the children that go to that school. If we want it to remain viable, we need to find a middle school for it. And if building one in town is because there's no land probably around it, I'm all for it. We can be creative. We can find the money. I don't know exactly how we're going to do that, but I'm willing to work really, really hard to make sure that is a reality.
Thank you. At this time, as we bring this to a close, I'm asking each candidate to state your name again, what you're running for or being reelected for. And we're going to start with Mr. Shacklet. We're going to work our way around this table. Then we'll have closing remarks. And then Bishop Chris Johnson will come with observations and closing prayer.
You want just our name and office, or do you want to comment? Close.
You got 1 minute to do your
Okay,
thing,
I'll
Mr.
do
Shackley.
it. My only comment, Bill Shackley, I'm running for city council again, and my challenge for you is that it has been in every election I've ever run, and is that democracy is not a spectator sport. It works best when you participate in it. Never going to elect council members or school board members that have all the answers. They are there. A pastor once told me, loving a stewardship campaign, he said, you know, we've got all the money we need to do everything we want to do. Only one problem, your pocket. And guys, answers to the problems, the difficult problems that we have are in our community. My effort has always been to try to connect government people it tries to serve. I've always wanted to hear different opinions. I enjoy that process because somewhere in there is a nugget of things not been brought to the process, and I want to be a part bringing that to the table, because often that said something. I challenge you to get out there, make a difference, signs around the community. Make a difference, vote. You're right. It's also your responsibility, and I challenge you to take responsibility serious.
Hi, my name is Kurt Wade. I'm running for re-election for City Council. One of the things I've said all along, as a community, we can do this together. I can't make all the decisions, but we can make them together to make our community better. And so I'm asking everyone, come out and vote. Get involved in your local government and know what's going on, and voice your opinion.
I'm Sean Wright. I'm running for Murfreesboro City Council. And let's work together and let's make Murfreesboro even greater than it's always been. Let's sit down. I can promise you that I will always communicate and I will always listen. I was once told something that I always want to sit down with somebody that doesn't agree with you. They may just be right. So just because somebody comes from a different background or looks a little different or something like that, they may have some really good ideas, or we may be able to work together and make this place better than it's ever been. Let's do that.
Patrick Dowdy, I'm running for School Board Zone 2. I'd like to be the one that represents everyone, all the students, the teachers, the parents, administrators. I'd like to be the voice for them. I'd like to bring fresh perspectives and experience, and my experience for the change that we need. I think it's important to build a unified school board. I think watching in the past, it just feels divided. I think can accomplish more if the school board is in it for the kids, truly for the kids and the teachers. I think you can take a step back and do what's right for the entire county, for the school. I have 3 kids and I'm an SRO. I've seen so many different angles of the school system, from the student's perspective, from law enforcement perspective, teachers and administrators. I think there's so much more that could be done, and I'd like to help with that. Thank
you. I'm Coy Young, seeking re-election for Rutherford County School Board Zone 2. I'm passionate about education. Futures of our students and serving our community. I'm not a politician. I don't belong to any special interest groups. Well, that's the thing we have to be careful of. A lot of special interest groups try to get involved in our local school boards and local government. If we're not careful, they're going to run away with some of our ideas and make it their ideas, and no telling where we'll end up. As a board member, I have served as the vice chairman of Rutherford County School Board since 2018, which is currently ranked to level 5, highest possible score by Tennessee Department of Education. I have also earned a level 5 master boardmanship, which is the highest level from Tennessee School Board Association, which we were also awarded School Board of the Year by the Tennessee School Board Association in my first term. So I think we know how to work together. We've done some amazing things, and we have a good school system. I will continue to advocate for equal benefits for classified employees to maintain a quality support staff, expansion of the Rutherford County School Career and Technical Program that I'm very proud of, which provides students with the practical and hands-on learning and also industry certifications. The elimination of portable classrooms is another big issue that we're trying to do. We've only added one in 8 years I've been on the board. My views are conservative. I bring my business experience, fairness, and common sense approach to the table when I make decisions. I've always been and will continue to be transparent. Our school board has a challenge this year with this pandemic, and we're going to try to do the right thing and make the best decision we can. Our central office is working hard. We have a bright future ahead of us in Rutherford County. I look forward to serving the next term as school board member and continuing to empower today's students to grasp tomorrow's opportunities. I will strive to keep Rutherford County schools at the top. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malone, for leading us tonight. I'm Howard Jones. I'm a candidate for Zone 3 School Board. It's very important to me. I grew up here with educators surrounding me. Like I've talked about, my brother, my mom, my entire family, my son-in-law, daughter. I'm a father. I'm a grandfather. I'm a husband. I'm a leader. And tonight we've talked about a lot of issues, and some of them that we're united on, and I'm very pleased with that. But as a leader, you got to listen and be accountable and accessible. And that's what I think I bring to the table more than anything else, is understanding that your employees and your students and the taxpayers need that voice. All people need a voice. And like Mr. Young mentioned, my special interests are the teachers, students, taxpayers, and members of this county. My family goes back over 100 years here. We love this community. And it's been very educational listening to the city council members tonight and my candidates that are running for school board. And thank y'all for coming. But what it breaks down to is who can lead us to the next level. We got very challenging times, and I think, I know I can take us, help lead the board, bring the teachers together, bring this community better. Right now, we need that more than we ever have. Thank you.
I'm Rick Kreisky, and I'm running for school board representative for Zone 3. I am a lifelong educator, not a part-time politician. If I'm elected, I'm going to devote my full effort to ensuring that all of our children receive a world-class education, a safe and secure environment from exemplary educators and staff who are paid commensurate with the job we expect them to do. Rutherford County Schools is a large organization, as we all know. Over 5,400 employees and over 46,000 students. I think it's an advantage for me, having been here 2 years, bring in some outside ideas to be some fresh eyes. It's great. I appreciate all the long-standing citizens of Rutherford County that I've met in the 2 years I've been here. I think some fresh eyes and some fresh ideas from being other places might help. A few years ago, I did my doctoral dissertation on superintendent and board relationships. And what I found out was that what that study showed was that the most successful school districts were school districts where the board and the superintendent worked as a team. I've been coming to school board meetings for the 2 years I've been here. And I think that we have some good people on our school board, but I have yet to see them work as a team in a school board meeting. And I think that's very important. Now, that doesn't mean rubber stamping what the superintendent wants, but it means working together. So if elected, I'll work to ensure that the board and the director become even more transparent and communicative as a team. I think our county deserves that, and more importantly, I think our children deserve that.
I'm Lisa Moore. I am currently the Zone 3 representative and running for reelection for the school board. My passion when I got on the school board was about the kids and about my middle schooler at that time, and it still is. As I posted actually on my Facebook page over a week ago, yes, I do represent special interest groups. There are 4 of them. They're the children, parents, teachers, and our taxpayers. I brought a passion to the board that I think you can't find necessarily from people within the system. When you put together a board of directors for a corporation, you don't necessarily look for people that are in your industry. Look for people that bring fresh outside business perspectives, and I think I have done that. I've brought a wealth of things to the board, a number of accomplishments with my relationship with the legislators, the challenges that I posted to the Tennessee Department of Education when they came to visit in terms of the testing. And I pride myself on the fact that every decision that I make, every time something comes up on the board, I made a commitment to myself when I first started this role that I would always ask myself the question first, is this what's best for our children? That's what I do every time, and it's what I will continue to do for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Once again, I'm Terry Hodge. I'm running for re-election on Zone 5. I want to once again thank you, Mr. Marable, and the NAACP and Zion Church here for hosting this evening. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask for everyone's support. I ask that you recognize that I bring to the board 16 years of work, state and federal mandates, familiarity with a complicated budget process, knowledge of running a growing school system that will serve us as we look to bring our children back to school next month. And an honor to serve the citizens and students of Zone 5. And I hope that you will vote to allow me to serve you another 4 years.
My name is Claire Maxwell, and I appreciate this forum and the opportunity to share my vision. If elected, I promise to be the best informed, hardest working, and most available board member. This will be my full-time focus and full-time passion for our taxpayers, teachers, parents, and students. I promise to be accessible and listen to our parents, teachers, and students. My goal is to elevate our school system to meet the needs of every family while equipping every school with the tools it needs for future success. If you believe it's time for a change, I would humbly ask for your vote on August 6th. God bless y'all.
Come on, let's give all of our candidates a hand. Let me say thank you to you that have taken time out of your demanding schedules to come and listen to the candidates. We pray that you heard some things that tickled your eardrum. Please know that the candidates are available. I'm sure if you want to speak with one of them, they will give you their information, their email address, their telephone number to stay in contact with them. I want to say a special thank you to the candidates. I know days like today's are long. You've had a crazy weekend, 4th of July and all the above, and firecrackers and all that. But thank you all. This was an easy task because when I called them, we end up speaking probably 30 minutes per candidate, but they have compassion for our community. And several things as we wrap this up. I want us to continue to pray for Miss Katie Wilson, who is the president of the branch of the Murfreesboro branch of NAACP, who's at home recovering. I want us to pray for David Settles. He is one of our community leaders. His son abruptly transitioned this weekend. Darius Settles, the life celebration will be Saturday. So keep the Settles family uplifted. Also want to say a special shout out. This is my thing right here, man. So y'all charge it to me. But there's a young man in this building that is so special to me that he is saying goodbye to the school board. He's going home and probably get some golf clubs. I don't know what he's going to do. But Mr. Jeff Jordan is here, who has given this community so many years of sacrifice and service. And I want to say thank you for coming out here, and God bless you in your future endeavors. Two things, and I'm out of here, you all. We're going to be out of here, and Bishop is going to come. Hezekiah Walker, listen to these lyrics. He said, I need you. You need me. We're all a part of God's body. Stand with me. Agree with me. We're all a part of God's body. It is His will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. I need you to survive. We may not have it all together, but together we have it all. Once again, we may not have it all together, but together we have it all. I pray that we will continue to work to bring unity in our community. We forget about the pigment of our skins, our economical status, our educational background. We come together as one because that's what it's all about. My final word is continue to pray for our leaders, and I call this last individual out by name because this week is one of those weeks, one of probably the toughest weeks of his time, and we called our director of schools, Mr. Bill Spurlock, out as we would pray for him that he would lean not to his own understanding, but in all of his way acknowledge God so he would direct his path and all of our paths collectively. Bishop Chris Johnson is coming with observations, final remarks, and closing prayer.
Thank you, Carrie, and thank you to all of the candidates, all of you. I'd like to thank you all of you. And I'll leave with this. I've been on vacation, and I've had time today. Tough time. Chapter 1, he'd prophesy while he's in chains amongst the captives. It gives him a little bit of more perspective when he's sitting there with them and he has to utter a prophetic word to them. I'd say this from the platform to the chair. I think maybe we could learn something from Ezekiel's ministry. That before we speak, before we have an opinion, maybe we should all sit where the other person sits. Now, I think that'll give us a little bit more perspective going forward. It is the Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard who said, life is lived forward, it's understood backward. I pray that one day, years from now, when we're trying to understand where we are 10 years from now, 12 years from now, that we remember this moment that we have to live forward. Since I'm a pastor, I think we should conclude in prayer. Father, now in the name of Jesus, thank you for this opportunity we've had to hear opinions and voices. I pray, God, that you would move everyone to let their voice be heard by voting. That right that you have given us all to let our voices be heard in our communities. I pray now that every candidate, Lord, humble themselves to your will and your way. And Lord, that you would give them conviction to do the right things, not only on this day, not only on election days, but God, that they would do those right things and hear the voices of the community throughout their terms. And that the community, Father, that we understand that we cannot allow the elected officials to shoulder the responsibility alone, but that we should step up and voice our opinions, raise children, one community at a time, one family at a time, but that we should also help each other. I thank you today for this moment, and your will be done. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. God bless you, everyone. Thank you so much.